Welcome back to Light the Flame. Thanks for tuning in. Well, in the last episode, we finished our three-part series on songwriting. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing the effect of friendship on the project as a whole. So, Zac, why don't you kick us off and explain what we mean by that?
Yeah, throughout this process, Pip and I really felt the Lord speak to us on friendship and the effect it had on this project. And we believe that the songs and the dreams are a result of Jesus moving in us, but also in our friendship. And I love what it says in Philippians 2 at the start, and it's talking about imitating Jesus and on the theme of humility. And it says things like, rather in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. And then it goes on to talk about Jesus, and it says, rather he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. And I think that's really the first thing I want to say is that on this project, I mean, Pip and I really went through a journey with this of learning to serve one another and bring out the best in each other that created that space for Jesus to just come in and move and speak and write these songs through us. And it's just something we really learned along the way, and serving one another just created that opportunity for the Lord just to come and move.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I just want to say, on that, the Lord gave us a servant heart for each other, and out of that brought vulnerability. That brought it brought us closer as friends, which enabled us to be more vulnerable with each other. And I think that's the next point I want to touch on is the effect that friendship had on this was that we were able to be so much more vulnerable with each other, and that meant that we could open up more especially when we were talking about vision right at the start, and then constantly throughout the whole thing, even up until now, we're able to just be vulnerable with exactly where we are. We were able to talk about how we're feeling in the moment, and maybe if something's changed in a deep or significant way, we'd be able to just talk to each other about that without really any problems or feeling embarrassed or anything. And again, we did mention that in the last 3 episodes on songwriting, so if you've not checked them out, go and check it out. But we talk about how vulnerability played a massive part in that, not only in songwriting in person, because obviously that's always going to be a vulnerable process. You are essentially pouring out what is in your heart onto a piece of paper. And so that's obviously going to be a vulnerable moment. And like we said, being close friends is, it really affects that. But also, again, over call, when we do it over call, it's almost a bit more vulnerable, because you might have to repeat yourself or say everything a little bit louder, which almost feels a bit more vulnerable it does for me anyway. But when we're talking about things that are deep and close to our heart, over call, because you've not got that human interaction and human conversation, it just feels more vulnerable. And because we're close friends, we're able to just say this is what we want to say in this line, and then again, we say, play something back to each other. And being close friends it really affected that in a great way, in a really helpful way.
Yeah, and also the moments when we weren't in the studio, we both agree, and we knew this at the time, but we also, looking back on it and looking at where we are now, we think this is still really important. The moments when we weren't in the studio, when we weren't specifically looking and going through the project, were really, really important to the process that God was taking us through. And I think just things like going out, we found a few amazing walks with rivers, and we played frisbee. We brought a rugby ball out. We just had that time in the fresh air, just getting outside of that studio or bedroom studio, and we just getting outside. But also other things, just grabbing a takeaway, hanging out with other people as well. Going into town a couple of times, and it was a weekly. I wouldn't say daily, but I would say it was a weekly thing that we did, where we paused and we went outside. And what that allowed us to do was reflect on what the Lord was doing, and also just hang out as friends and not have everything we do become, really focused on this project. And I think that helped us get to where we are, with the whole project.
Yeah. Well, you touched on meeting up with other friends and stuff, and that's what we want to talk about, is how friendship with others affected the project. Got to give another massive shout out to Boaz. We were living with him, and he was being amazing about the whole thing. Like, we were in the middle of a pandemic where we couldn't meet up with many people at all. And me and Zac were stuck in a room most hours of the day, and Boaz was just like doing his own thing. And he was so supportive, so like, pushing us and championing us through that, saying like, and like we said about how he brought us drinks and stuff like that. Like, it was just amazing. So there's that friendship that was so strong and able to, be selfless through that. It was amazing. He was so supportive and so helpful. And then obviously, as restrictions eased and stuff like that, we started working out with each other. So we went to the park that's just across the road from my house, and we were, going on runs together with people from outside of our household and stuff, obviously socially distanced and all that. And, we were doing stuff like that. And through that, people would often like ask us, like, oh, how's the writing going? How's the EP going? I remember when we got the first demo done, we played it to everyone, and they were like so excited for us. And so friendship throughout that, in that area was amazing. And then we started talking, like once we'd finished the songwriting process, we started talking about like how we felt the Lord was putting it on our hearts. It's a little bit more than just an EP, and how the whole thing was growing into a much bigger project. And there was one really, really good friend of ours called Dan, who we've actually mentioned in other videos because he edits all of our videos for us because we are incapable. And Dan was and is like really into videos, like videoing and like photography and stuff like that. He's great. And so I remember me and Zac talking about how we felt like the Lord was pushing it to a bigger project, and we wanted to say how we wanted to like video it and capture moments when we were allowed and when we were able to. When we talked about doing these like worship nights, we're going to talk about the worship nights in one of the up and coming videos. We wanted to like capture them and capture somewhat of the vision through that. And so we talked so Zac actually went and spoke to Dan about it, and we were like, we'd love to get you on board. We'd love to get you involved. And Dan like caught the vision. I remember Zac coming over to me whilst we were in teaching one time on the gap year course we were on. And he said, I feel like Dan has just like really caught the vision. And it was so exciting, like to hear that, like he wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'll come and video for you. He was like, I'd love to do that. I'd love to get involved, and like, just like so on fire. And we're blessed to have Dan. He's like so passionate about videography and, all of this stuff that he's doing, but also above all, just like super mega passionate about Jesus. And that was, that's all we really wanted. We want people involved that are just like on fire for Jesus. And, Dan is that. And so the effective friendship with others has like, it's taken a massive chunk into the project and really driven it forward. And so that's, it's awesome and so exciting to see.
Yeah. And I think to sum up, really what we're saying is talking about unity, and through unity, allowing God to move. And because we're not battling each other and nothing, when we did have disagreements, we have to say you never agree on everything. We had disagreements, but it didn't turn into conflict. It didn't turn into argument. It became a discussion, which I believe actually built the project more and actually built our friendships. And that unity we're talking about, really, we felt that really strongly, just between us, but also I think with Boaz and Dan and others on the course and other people that were encouraging us. That really basically we just all came together, and that just allowed the Spirit of God to move and speak to us because there was no division among us. And yeah, so that's really what this is all about. We came together, and it became this. It was never about one person. It was, obviously it's about Jesus. But in terms of like the project, like whose project it was, like who came up with this, it was never even just Pip and I. It was always like a group. It was like the church. It was loads of different people involved. And that's, I think, something that's so special about this project.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a shame, but that's all we've got time for today. But thanks for tuning in. Like we said at the start of the video, In the next episode, we're going to be talking about our inspiration and, inspiration of songwriting and all of the good stuff. So make sure you tune into that. But remember, all of the links are in the description. Don't forget to follow the Wildfire Instagram and subscribe to the Wildfire YouTube for all things Light the Flame and Wildfire. See you soon.